Hello and welcome to On the Preds with me, your host Alex Doherty of A to Z Sports, and Sean Smith with On the Forecheck. Hello, we are ready to go. This is the show where we recap the Preds week. We talk hockey. We usually have a good time. This week will be a little tougher for a couple of the games. But we try to analyze this, analyze that, debate terrible movies, that kind of thing, etc. Little bad movie reference there. Sean, what's going
Yeah.
on, man?
Not a lot. Just trying to cruise into the Thanksgiving season here. Pretty excited to be joining you today. Hope everybody
Yeah.
out there listening is ready for some hardcore hockey talk.
That's right. And, we normally have our shows normally drop on Sunday, as you can see from the graphic. If you're watching us on YouTube, if you're listening on SoundCloud, you probably already know we usually drop episodes on Sundays. But the holidays and there's been some other stuff going on, so we're dropping it on a Wednesday. We're dropping it on a Wednesday morning is when you're getting this, so that's going to be fun. But regardless, we have a lot to talk about. There's been several things that have happened with the Predators. Some not so good, some potentially good. We'll see what's going on there. We got 3 games to recap for you, and then we'll talk a lot about this Predators team. So, once again, if you have you not already checked it out, if you're listening to this on SoundCloud, don't forget we do have a video version of the show. Go to the A to Z Sports YouTube channel. All of the shows on A to Z Sports are there, including this one. Check it out. We do video on there, so that should be just another fun way to do it. You can see our beautiful graphic that we've created for this show. Try to make it different every time. Decorate the place.
Keep it looking fresh around here.
You have to. Yeah, no one likes a stale graphic.
No, I like the throwback too. It takes me back to the mid '80s. Makes me happy.
There you go. So let's talk about this last week. So we got 3 games to recap. Let's just jump right into it because I feel like these first 2 games we're going to want to just cover and then move on. But Sean, you want to take it away and let us know what happened in these the first 2 games of this past week?
I would be glad to, Alex. Let's talk about Toronto. How's that sound?
Terrible, but go.
Okay. Well, I hope you've got all the goal videos queued up. It's going to be an awesome time. But Tuesday night, and when I say Tuesday night, I don't mean like the day before we released this, but like a week ago, Tuesday night, the Preds took on the Maple Leafs in Toronto for the first time in nearly 3 years. Both teams were coming into the match on hot streaks. Early play looked promising for the Predators. Philip Tomasino nearly scored on a backdoor goal on a cross-ice pass from Ryan Johansen, but was turned away by Jack Campbell. Of course, Austin Matthews eventually found the net in the first after taking advantage of a power play, and then things remained fairly close most of the rest of the game, at least as far as the score goes. Nashville was drastically outshot by the Leafs, and the scoreboard only stayed the way it did because of one man. And that man, of course, was Juuse Saros. Saros looked to be on top of his game and made a ton of impressive saves. Throughout the night, in the second, it looked like Matthews had scored again, but was eventually determined that the puck never crossed the goal line and it was overturned. It took until deep into the third period for the Leafs to score again as David Kampf got one by Saros on what Juuse would later call a shitty goal. And eventually the Leafs scored on the empty net. Final score 3-0.
Yeah, I forgot about that. He did
good.
call it that.
And I agree entirely. I'm glad that he said that.
I'm going to try to find that. I'm going to keep going. Go into Montreal. I'm going to try to find the video of him saying that because that was so good.
It's a long walk to Montreal, Alex. I don't know if I can make
you know
it.
What I mean.
All right. I know what you mean. Okay, let's talk about Montreal. Of course, it was Saturday. Remember that last week on Thursday, the Predators were supposed to play the Senators, but due to a lot of issues with COVID-19 up in Ottawa, they were unable to have that game. It got postponed. So the Predators had some extra time off. And one of the big questions was, would that extra time off be beneficial to them or would it be harmful to them? Well, Saturday they had to deal with the Montreal Canadiens, and the Canadiens looked like a team in trouble coming into the game after a very, very rough start to the season and coming off of a nasty loss of 6-0 against the Penguins. However, it didn't take long before the Canadiens started pouring goals into the net behind Juuse Saros like maple syrup onto a stack of pancakes. It took 5 goals through the second period before the team pulled Saros and put Riddick in the net. And then, like some kind of miracle, Matt Duchene was able to score a natural hat trick in the third period on the strength of 2 power play goals, followed by a third goal as Riddick headed to the bench, but it wasn't enough. And Montreal was able to put the nail in the coffin as Riddick headed to the bench once again to try to give the Preds a chance to score a 4th goal in an effort to come back. Rough night and rough loss for the Preds, and there was nothing to celebrate despite 3 in a row for Matt Duchene.
That the Montreal game, I had forgotten how bad it was. It was really awful. But then okay, so the Matt Duchene hat trick is one of those that like sticks out to me as one of the most inconsequential, forgettable hat tricks. And I mean, look, not individual goal score. I mean, it was fine,
Right.
but it just was so impossible for them to come back.
Yeah.
Down that deficit. It's like we'll remember that hat trick only because it was so meaningless, right?
The hat trick that meant nothing. I mean,
yeah.
And I was thinking after the second period, I was like, man, this is bad. Like nothing's going to save this at all. And then Duchene lights it up, and it's like, oh well, maybe there's some life left. And I think that's what the positive thing I would take away from that was that in response to being down, someone stepped up. And yeah, there's a hat trick. No, it wasn't enough. And no, I mean, hats weren't hitting the ice. It wasn't a huge celebration. And there's there's really no big victory in losing 6-3, regardless of what kind of impressive personal achievement happens on the ice. But at least there was fight left in the team. And at least Duchene strapped the team to his back and tried to drag him toward a win. And I'll take that.
Yeah. Right. I when I saw that was happening, I was watching very little of that game. I mean, I watched some of it, but not all of it. And when I saw that Matt Duchene was doing that, and when he scored the first goal or two, I was like, maybe there is something we can pull from this. But then I was just like, it would almost feel cheap, like it just cheap attention on this game that just ultimately really is just a one you burn and throw in the trash. And Toronto's a little different. I mean, I feel like Toronto, if not for Juuse Saros, Toronto would have looked like Montreal, right?
Yeah, I agree.
It would have been bad. It would have been 6-0 or 6-1 maybe. They didn't score, so it would have been awful. The save that Saros made to that they reviewed that kind of bounced behind him was incredible. That was really impressive. I went and found the clip of Saros. I want to play this because I totally forgot about this. I'm glad you mentioned it.
Yeah.
This is Saros after the Tuesday game, and when I heard this, we get to zoom into these audio. It's really kind of nice now because we didn't used to be able to do this. We get to zoom into the audio on the road games. COVID was good for something, I guess, because that would not have happened if not for COVID. No. So they've allowed us to do that, and so we can zoom in, we can ask questions if we want, and we can listen to them post game. So when he said this, I had to rewind it at least 3 times just to make sure that this is what he said. Listen closely, you'll hear what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's a good team, obviously, and I think we will try to make an effort to get back into the game. And obviously, it was a kind of shitty goal, not the second one. So, but yeah, their goalie played well, and just couldn't score tonight.
Yep, the old shitty goal. It's like
our boy's growing up. That's what's important.
Yeah,
Dad's not around anymore.
And he didn't honestly seem. It's hard to explain what happened there because he didn't seem sheepish or ashamed or anything like that. Which I'm not saying he should. I don't. Cursing never bothers me. When people curse, it doesn't bother me. I do it all the time. I'm not going to do it on this show, but it doesn't. It's never been something that bothers me. I know that it bothers other people. But like when he did that, it was kind of funny that he just kind of brushed it off. I mean, maybe he still didn't even realize that he did it, but it was really funny when it happened.
But it was an apt description, and I don't think there's another word that could sum it up better than that one word. And I'm fine with it.
He was right. I mean, he was correct. Yeah.
Exactly. If you had asked me, hey, Shaun, which player this season is going to drop the first swear word in an interview, would not have picked Saros.
Yeah, He doesn't. He's not a guy. Obviously, the language barrier is tough, but he's also not a guy that really sees a lot of. You don't see a lot of aggression or emotion really out of him. I mean, he's like Rene in that respect. I mean, eventually Rene, as his career went on, he would show emotion. He would show, even on the ice. I mean, he would show some like resentment or anger towards other people. But I think Saros is maybe getting there, and it's kind of funny. And it's also funny that he's been tatted up for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know how long he's had those tattoos, but you could see his tattoos, and then he's like cursing in the video. I don't know. There's just something about it's like you like you just said, he's growing up. He's reached this level. He's like one step away from joining a biker gang. It seems like
what I think he got the tattoo this summer. Or at least he got it in this off season. I think so, and it may have been earlier than that, but it's of his dog, I believe. And I want to say it's a very nice tattoo. It's a nice outdoor scene. It's I like it. But here's the thing. Pekka's back in Finland, and when Dad's away.
That's right. Yeah, Dad left, so we got a tattoo. He starts cussing on the mic. Pretty soon, he's gonna join a gang. We're gonna wonder what happened to Juuse Saros in a few years, and he's just gonna be like he's a different person now.
Totally. It's that one word tells you everything. No, I think it's again. I go back to I can't.
Obviously, we're just joking around here.
I can't think of a better word for it though. I mean that's what that goal was, plain and simple. But hey,
the Montreal game. I mean, honestly, it was just it was a disaster. I think everyone played pretty poorly. Nothing really to learn there. You just move on. And so that takes us to Monday night because you really wanted to bounce back from the end of that road trip. And so they welcome in the Anaheim Ducks, and I'll go ahead and give us the recap here. So quack, quack, the Ducks are back in Bridgestone Arena the first time since January 16th, 2020. Now, I remember this was one of the last games that I was at before everything shut down. I mean, because like February, I think they had a big long road trip. There was a break in there. And then they came back for a couple games, and then that's when things shut down. So one of the last few games, and this was also, if I remember, this was the last home game that Peter Laviolette coached. I believe that's accurate. I'll double check that, but I think it's the last one because I think he was fired the week before or the week after that. Because I think Hines' first game was the 20th. We'll double check that in a minute.
I'm gonna look it up.
You want to look that up? I'll do that. But it's always a fun time when the Ducks and the Predators meet, and Monday was no exception. Nashville got on the board first when Ryan Johansen ripped a wrist shot by John Gibson off of a nice feed from Yakov Trenin in transition. That was a great play, 1-0 Preds. Anaheim ties it when Ricard Raquel rips a wrist shot by Juuse Saros. He's really good. He's been there a long time. He's just going to keep scoring goals, I'm pretty sure. The balance of the game kind of was shifting towards Anaheim a little bit, but then the best part of Nashville's attack, the power play, puts the home team up 2-1. Mikhail Granlund picks his spot, doesn't miss. Then later, a lucky bounce off of two Preds defenders ties the game in the third. But then Yakov Trenin does this.
The race. Now he's got to come back and defend. Trenin, again, just tenacious. Works it out of the zone. Keeps moving it forward. Trenin still chasing it. Trenin has it. Trenin scores! What a play!
Wow, that was incredible. Yakov Trenin would not be denied, taking the puck from his own zone after the faceoff loss and stealing it again, pushing past the defense, ripping a wrister. Puts the team up 3-2 with about 8 minutes left. Then Juuse Saros and the defense hold Anaheim off the board. Losing streak over. Preds win 3-2.
And I'm going to say, like, after that goal, after Trenin's goal, that was some of the most intense hockey I'd seen in a long time. And I'm talking like, everything was on the line, like you've come off these two terrible games. You want to erase that. And then, I mean, the Preds were up 2-1. I mean, the game was kind of in hand until you have that weird, bumper goal off of what, Yossi and Fabro?
Yeah.
Something. I mean, why does that keep happening to the Predators? But it does. It never happens for them against the other team. But how do you take all of this momentum and then boom, you're tied because of just pure dumb luck. And now we've got to do something about it. We're going to end up going into overtime and maybe coming away with 1 point, if we can't pull it out, or maybe 2. But, you really want to drop the hammer. You want to make sure that they're not going to get any points. And Trenin gets it done. And from that point on, like, all right, we're keeping this lead, no nonsense. We're not letting them score. And it took me right back to the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah,
I love it.
It was a great game, and they like you said, they needed to win that one. They needed they had fought so hard to just make sure that they didn't respond. Like they if they had come out and given up a couple goals to Anaheim after the way that Toronto and Montreal game had gone, you could see it turning into a really bad losing streak, especially with some of the teams coming up that we'll talk about. But they got that first goal. Then obviously they get some bad luck to get it tied late, and then Yakov Trenin just puts the team on his back and does that. It was pretty incredible. Thought it was interesting that they didn't give Trenin the first star. Because, well, so I think probably the reason is because I think Trenin is he's learning the language still. He's probably not as comfortable. I mean, any other player probably gets the first star, but now the first star, at the home crowd, has to go out and do that little like mid-ice interview. I don't know. Yeah. I thought it was kind of odd. I still feel like they could have given it to him and just asked him some really easy questions. But maybe someone on this Preds team said, "Can you not have Trenin go out there? He's nervous."
It's possible. Did you notice on the broadcast that Trenin was the first star?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it could be different because, the broadcast, he's talking to one person. There's just a camera. I assume. I didn't watch the rest of the broadcast after the game's over, but in the home arena, in the arena, the first star comes out and does a little bench interview. Ryan Johansen did it last night, so that's where he came out and said Nash Vegas, and a bunch of people got upset that he called it Nash Vegas because people don't like that, but whatever.
Words are words, Alex.
I say a bunch of people got upset. Like 3 people on Twitter got upset. That's what I mean.
But sometimes 3 people can speak for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. Doesn't bother me. Whatever.
Well, I want to go back to a second for just 1 second to talk about the power play, and then we got a couple other things we want to cover as well. I wrote about this at AtoZSports.com. You can go check that out. But all of a sudden, the Nashville Predators power play has become probably their strongest part of their attack. Getting on the power play for them is now finally a momentum boost because they're scoring goals, they're creating pressure, they're putting a ton of pressure on that defense, wearing them out, and they're getting results. I mean, they've scored 14 power play goals in 49 chances. That's like a 28% chance. Sorry, 28% success rate. And they weren't even anything close to that in previous years over the last 4 years. No. There was a time in the mid Trotz era that their power play was pretty good. Shea Weber days, obviously. Right. But it wasn't really this good. And it didn't have nearly the weapons that this one does, which is what people have been frustrated about, right? I mean, for years, this team has had talent and skill all over the top of the roster, and yet their power play was bottom 5 in the league. We're finally seeing it kind of take a turn, maybe.
Yeah, and I think the thing for me, and just I've watched a lot of power play in the past several years, and when you would complain about or you would see that kind of stale, stagnant power play, what you were seeing a lot of was perimeter passing for the most of the power play, and then some shots from the blue line. And I noticed something about the power play during the Ducks game was that there was still a fair amount of perimeter passing, but the difference was these were really quick, crisp, clean passes, and they weren't made just to try to find a new angle. They were really made with the intention of throwing off the other team, getting them out of position. And it was executed so well on the perimeter that when it did get up closer, it made it that much harder to defend. And that to me, that's the biggest difference. I don't know what you saw, if you saw something differently, but that's what stood out to me.
Definitely. I see a lot better passing, but I also see, and this is what I wrote about today, I see better off the puck movement. The guys who don't have the puck are not just standing around.
No.
When I watched that goal from Granlund, the whole power, I mean, he scored with like maybe 7-8 seconds left in power play.
Yeah.
And it was that was really just a nice individual play by him. But he saw some space and he took it, and that's what you got to do. But the whole power play leading up to that was just dynamic passing and guys moving without the puck. You see, when you watch the power play in years past, you see Roman Josi at the top and you see guys around the outside, but no one switches positions. Everyone's afraid to get out of their little zone of comfort, and they might come down a little low. They might come up a little high just to get the pass from someone and then skate around a little bit. But when they don't have the puck, they're not moving very much. I mean, you need to move without the puck because you need to create a little better angle for the pass. You also need to make that defense think about you. If you're just standing there, the defense does not have to think about you. They know where you are. They know exactly how to stop a pass from getting to you. But if you move, they can't do that as easily. And they're rotating guys in and out. I mean, there was a time where Tolvanen had kind of gone into the middle of the ice and maybe gone below the line, below the goal line. Granlund was all over the place moving around. You had Johansen in and out. You had Duchesne kind of in his normal area, but he was not afraid to move around. It just was really nice to see the off-puck movement finally doing something.
Yeah, it's controlled chaos, I think. And I'm really curious, what do you think's led to the power play performing this way? And I don't necessarily mean, the results, but I mean what's making the results happen, because it seemed very stagnant for a long time with Laviolette, and it remained that way under Hines for a while. So what do you think's been the difference maker? Like, well, I'm curious. I have ideas, but I want to know what you think.
Okay, so one of them is a little bit of a kind of a weird idea. I don't know that this is really, I would attribute it to all of this, but okay. So when you have one of your best players not either not lineup or not playing well or not scoring well on the power play, you are forced to have to go to other options. With Philip Forsberg not on the power play, let me back up a second. The Predators' power play, when it was good over the last 4 years, which was not very often, but when it was good, it was only really good when Philip Forsberg was shooting well.
Okay.
So it was a little bit of smoke and mirrors. So, like, he's a great shooter, and he would get the puck on that right circle and fire a wrister, and he would score a lot. I mean, that happened quite a bit. But it's not unlike the Shea Weber thing. Like, Shea Weber would take a ton of slap shots on the power play, but, like, he wasn't necessarily that much more effective than anyone else at doing that. I mean, like, a lot. He just did it a lot. Philip Forsberg took a lot of power play shots. He was basically the offense went through him. So when Philip Forsberg goes down or out of the lineup, they are forced to come up with other options and forced to move people around. In addition to that, I think Mikael Granlund is just like on another level in terms of his playmaking. Same thing with Duchesne. Those two guys playing really well together. Johansen, you could add him in there. And then Roman Josi's like a Norris Trophy winning and possible two-time winning defenseman. So all of that combined, I think it just adds up to a lot. What do you think?
I was going to say very similar things along the lines of, it seemed like everything was kind of fed through Forsberg. When you added Tolvanen last season, you did see a little bit more of a dynamic that created chaos on the ice because you had options on both sides of the ice. Without Forsberg this season, it seems like those responsibilities don't just go to the top of one circle. It's coming from anywhere at any given time. And as a result, you're seeing more movement, you're seeing more creativity. That's why I was trying to ring the bell to say ding, ding, ding when you said that.
Oh.
But I don't have one here. So
I thought you were like ordering something on pay-per-view or something on your remote control.
Yeah, my remote control from the 80s.
Right. Exactly. That's how you do it. There is one player in the NHL that can do whatever he wants on the power play, and no one gets to say anything, and that's Alex Ovechkin, because he's done it like a million times.
Right.
But even Ovechkin, that team scores a lot of power play goals that are not Alex Ovechkin, right? I mean, it's the threat more than it is anything. I mean, he scores a ton of power play goals from that spot,
Right.
but they got a ton of other guys that score too. So you can't be a one attack. You can't have a one weapon approach in the on the power play. You just can't. And so finally they have realized that, and finally they have that. I was actually just looking at the power play goals. They got let's see, I've got it right here. Duchesne 4, Yossi 4, Johansen 2, Tomasino 2. In the past, that power play, goals like looking at just the power play goals, it would be like Forsberg 6,
Yossi.
Mike Fisher 1,
Yossi from the blue line.
Yeah, Craig Smith 1, Roman Yossi 1. Whoever else you want to name in there, James Neal, when he was on the team, he'd have a few. But it was basically just one guy, and now it's a little bit more balanced. So,
well, I think you mentioned Ovechkin. You mentioned the Capitals as well, and I can remember giving the Preds a lot of crap whenever they played the Capitals. They'd find themselves on the penalty kill because they would leave Ovechkin wide open, and I'd say to the TV with some extra words added in, you can't leave him alone. But then the reality is there's 4 other dudes on the ice they've got to cover, because if you commit resources to cover Ovechkin, you're just leaving everybody else wide open, and they can get it done as well.
Exactly. Yeah. They're all skilled. Anyone in this league can shoot the puck into the open net if you give them enough room. So let's move on from that and talk about Yakov Trenin briefly, and then we'll talk about Ryan Johansen. So Yakov Trenin, I just want to talk about this for a second because that play was awesome. And it's so nice to see Trenin just continue from last year, kind of what we saw. I haven't seen as much Jano, but with those two, I mean, I know they're not really playing together right now, but specifically about Yakov Trenin, I think his speed and size and his just determination on every play is just so much fun to watch, right?
Well, it is, and I think it's interesting because he gets chances like that a lot, where you'll see him. Usually, it ends up with someone in front of him, or he runs out of gas because it's the tail end of something going on down on the other end. But man, like that, I think you're going to start seeing that happen more. He's big enough, strong enough, and I think he's a good shooter. I think in all of the hype around the Herd line last season, that what got overlooked was that being big and tough and aggressive wasn't the extent of his skill set. And if you know anybody coming from Milwaukee should be well-rounded as far as things go. So you're not going to bring a player in that's been under Carl Taylor and expect them to do one thing and one thing only. They should be good at a multitude. And I think that's something you're going to start seeing shining through a lot for him.
And he seems to be getting more comfortable with the team. He seems like he's found a comfort level in the locker room. You never know exactly what's going on in there. I mean, there's no way we could know exactly how someone's fitting in the locker room, but a guy contributes that much and does that much physically, that it goes a long way. Like players who don't have those physical skills respect it so much more. I mean, there's certain guys on the team that just can't do the things that he does physically, like against another skater. And it's just great to see that he can do that. Speaking of physical skills, Ryan Johansen has a lot of those. And I know you want to talk about Ryan Johansen's, the reinvigoration of Mr. Ryan Johansen. What do you want to talk about there?
Yeah, and I was going to ask Alex, while I'm talking about it, I just thought of this. Is there any way you could bring up the post-game clip where Johansen was talking about Trenin while he was sitting right next to him?
Yes. Well, okay. I think I have some of it. I think I have what you need. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So here's what I wanted to say. And this is, speaking of Ryan Johansen, going back to the return to play, what seems like thousands of years ago, something John Hines said was that when Johansen was a willful skater, not a willing skater, but a willful skater, that he's hard to stop or something like that. And I think you're seeing this reinvigoration with Johansen. And I don't want to say that it comes from playing with these younger guys, but you certainly see him playing in a different role when he's playing with the younger guys. And I think there's an element of his character and his personality that gets brought out when he is the older brother role, or the maybe more the mentor role, and saying, hey, look, we can do this and have fun. Let's go down the ice and score a nasty goal. And what I like the most about what you saw yesterday was, with both of us discussing, did they have Ryan Johansen be the first star because he had to come out as opposed to Trenin coming out due to his his limited English proficiency, which I'm an English teacher, so feel comfortable saying that it's definitely a work in progress, but it's gotten a lot better. But I really like the way the dynamic played when they sat next to each other during the interview after the game. And if you've got that clip, I think that would be a great way to show.
It's still processing. We'll definitely show it.
Okay.
I know, because I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Ryan Johansen's a lot of fun. I mean, like he is probably the most like energetic and fun guy in that whole locker room. But the other thing about him, and I almost tweeted this, I decided not to, but I don't think there's anyone that like has a bigger difference between their mood and attitude after a game, after a win versus after a loss. Ryan Johansen does not want to talk to the media after a loss. He freaking hates it. Like, he looks like miserable. But then after a win, he's like this. This is what he's like. I'll play it right now.
Consistent, I guess, right now. Feel good, feel fast, feel like I'm skating really well. And for me, it's always been moving the feet and legs pounding kind of thing, and that usually leads to some space and whatnot, so just want to keep that up.
Ryan, like you said, Yak on his goal too, not only that, but a beautiful play on your goal as well.
Yeah, forgot about that.
Thanks, Ryan.
That was a heck of a pass, yeah.
What does that say about him? We know how physical he can be, but he's got some offensive skills.
Says he played a great game, and he's got to do the same thing Wednesday.
You, to get a couple goals recently, did you feel like you were getting chances earlier in the season and they just weren't falling for you? Has anything changed?
Yeah, I felt like I always had chances. I just couldn't put it in, and now it's going. So keep it going.
Ryan, is there still a certain level of animosity between the Predators and the Ducks, even after all these years and players coming and going?
Yeah, absolutely. We're actually giving Wes a hard time about they were giving Wes a hard time about a penalty call, and he skated by our bench. He's like, a few years ago in the Western Finals, he's like, that wouldn't have been a penalty. And we had some good battles with those guys, and it's always nice to come out on top and beat them still to today.
That's great. Yeah, there's some extra stuff in there too, especially if you're talking about the ref.
Yeah.
I think he's talking about them talking to the referee and how they were chatting with that during the game. So yeah, he's a lot of fun, and there may have been another part where he talks about Yakov Trenin in there. I don't think I got that part, but is that?
Oh no, that was it. I mean, he says
okay.
It was something like he played an awesome game and he's going to do it again on Wednesday. And when you cut over to Trenin, you can tell, and this is the thing. I've talked to Trenin several times. You can tell that when he's got someone there building him up, he feels a lot better. He feels a lot more comfortable, a little more loose. I saw him smile in the interview.
Yeah.
That's not something we see very often. You talk about people fitting in the locker room. When you have someone, a very jovial, outgoing Johansen as your wingman, it's going to bring that out in you. It's going to make you feel more comfortable in that room. It's going to make you feel more comfortable on the ice as well.
Yeah, what you're talking about with Johansen is definitely on point, because he is that guy in the locker room. You can tell, because there's other guys too. I mean, he's brought out other guys. Maybe not all in the same way as Trenin, but like even with like someone like Tomasino, you can see that he definitely did that with Forsberg. Forsberg, prior to his real kind of breakout, like, I mean, Johansen comes, Jofa, that all happens. But like Arvidsson and Forsberg, like the two Swedish guys, definitely benefited from having funny Uncle Joey over there, bringing them out of their shell and giving them this sort of personality in life, in addition to a great line mate as well. So that you're right. It's a really good, interesting way to talk about it. It's a different level of leadership that you don't normally see in a locker room. People talk about leadership and who needs to be captain and everything. I mean, you don't need to give Johansen a C or an A on his jersey in order to make that kind of leadership happen.
No, it's natural, and I think it just. And like you said, there's no one as high as he is after a win, no one as low as he is after a loss. But then again, that's just emotion, and that's what you're going to get from someone like that. And
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing. It says, hey, now's the time we can be happy. We won. Let's be excited about it. We lost. Hey, let's keep keep moving forward, and we'll get it on the next one.
Right. So, all right, we just mentioned Forsberg. So I wanted to throw this out there. Obviously we don't have any news yet, but Olivier gets sent back to Milwaukee Tuesday. So now there's an open roster spot on the team. There is also one player, Philip Forsberg, on IR, who is, he's been eligible to come back from IR for a while now. He has been skating recently. So this has led to a lot of people thinking it's possible he could come back this week, maybe tomorrow. Today, or maybe Friday, or maybe Saturday. So that's good to see, right?
I'm encouraged by it. I think, knowing he didn't travel on the trip, on the road trip, kind of let me know that he definitely wasn't going to be playing on Saturday. But I figure they come back, they reevaluate. You look at the game last night; he wasn't out there. You send Olivier back; it's for a reason. One spot open, one guy on IR. I mean, if you're putting all the puzzle pieces together, it would make sense that that's how it all works out.
It would be weird to send Olivier down and not make a corresponding move that same day if that's what you were going to do. If they come back tomorrow and say, "Oh, we've recalled Michael McCarron or whoever it is," wait, is he already up? Whoever.
He's up right now, yeah.
Yeah, he's up right now. I guess it would have to be someone else. Doesn't matter. But it would be very odd for them to do that. So, yeah, it seems like a return is imminent. By the way, they could also not fill that spot yet. I mean, they still got enough players to field a team on Wednesday. But I don't know. It seems very likely that a return is imminent. So sooner rather than later. So there you go.
Yeah.
Possible Philip Forsberg return to the lineup in the middle of the team. Kind of figuring some things out. Obviously, last week's stinkers were bad, but you move on from those. And the Predators are still 10-7-1. Is that right? Do I have that right? 10-7-1. Let's see.
I think so.
10-7-1 in fourth place. 21 points right now. 21 points in 18 games. You want to be above 1 point per game, obviously. And the big test is, we always say that you really don't want to look at standings or really try to truly evaluate your team until Thanksgiving. Wow, my hair did a weird thing there. And Thanksgiving is no product for me.
What's the problem?
Thanksgiving is really close, so we there's only one more game until then. So we'll kind of know pretty much everything we need to know until then. It's not like it's exact science or anything, but do you feel like this team is better than you thought it would be at this point?
I think I would have said that for a while. I think I'm more encouraged by the fact that the team has been playing well and performing well without Forsberg than I think I would have if they had just kind of continued on, kind of playing a little bit below average with him gone. But, I think when you look at the team, you see a game like they're playing the Ducks, and the Ducks are, I'd say, at least record-wise, a fairly comparable team. They're performing very well. It's a close game. It's a hard-fought game, but they come out on top. I want to see games against teams like the Canadiens. I want to see them roll that team before I start feeling, if you're coming – again, they talk about trap games. I mean, that was a trap game right there. I mean, that's a team that's underperforming, coming off of a terrible loss. I mean, they're basically dead in the water. You should go in there and kick the crap out of them, but it ends up turning around on you. I want to see the team win those games when you have what should be an easy win. When I start seeing those turn into easy wins, that's when I feel more confident. What about you?
No, you're right. That Montreal loss is obviously much worse loss than the Toronto one, and really in a different category because of the reasons you stated. And so the week ahead, the Predators have two of the three next games because we're going to kind of switch some things around, and I'm not sure when we're going to record next. We might do Sunday, we might do another Tuesday. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But right now they have Wednesday night tonight. They have Vegas. That's going to be a tough game. They're always good. Friday they play New Jersey at home. Then they go on the road to Colorado in a back-to-back, and that is terrible. I mean, to play Colorado the first time you play them is a second half of a back-to-back in Denver.
Yeah,
my God, that's
after a night of travel.
After a night of travel to play, that's just, man. I just feel like that's already a loss. But they could surprise us. Maybe they play Saros in the second game. They probably do that, actually. They probably play Riddick on Friday against New Jersey, and then they probably play Saros on Saturday just to give them a chance,
I'm glad somebody brought negative Nancy to the party tonight to be real negative about the Colorado game. Whatever, that's fine. I like to be optimistic.
The scenario there is not a good one.
No, it's not a good scenario at all. And I think the thing about Colorado is they've just got so many weapons on the ice at any given time that you've got to keep your head on a swivel, and playing a game the night before and then having to travel, switching time zones. That's no fun. No one's going to like that. So I understand what you're saying. I was making.
So they don't have. I forgot now. All right. So let me backtrack it just a second because I forgot that Colorado doesn't have Nathan McKinnon for at least the time being. They don't have their defense has not been quite as good. I mean, their defense is not anything like what we had seen. Bowen Byram, that defenseman, he's on the IR. So yeah, maybe they're not quite the team. I mean, they're below Nashville in the standings right now. So that's
really
something. Yeah,
is that you're not just pulling my leg?
No, they're 9-5-1. They have 19 points.
I gotta look at this. I'm gonna look at the standings right now.
Yeah.
Good gravy. I don't believe it. Well, but you know what? Here's the thing. I'll say this. They've got three games in hand too, at the moment. So, higher win percentage. That could be. They've got a +12 differential. The Preds are even.
Yeah.
So
they're still better. They're better than Nashville, but
we'll see what happens. I'm definitely curious. I think there may be. Do you play Saros against New Jersey to give yourselves the best chance at the win, or do you play Saros in Colorado to give yourself the best chance at winning that game, which is more of a guaranteed win? But then again, wasn't Montreal supposed to be a guaranteed win?
Yeah. New Jersey is a guaranteed win if Montreal isn't. That's for sure.
Right, and Colorado is definitely not a guaranteed win. So, but I'm excited about this Vegas game. I'm going to be really honest with you here, Alex. The thing about Vegas is that they've always been a big team, and they've always been a team that plays hard, and they can beat you with speed as well. And I think that's one of the things about the team as it's kind of developed over the past few seasons that surprised me is that they've been able to maintain their size and heavy hitting game while also adding speed. And so I'm very curious to see how this game plays out, because the Predators are kind of trying to do the same thing. They've got a lot more size than they usually do. And I'm excited to see what kind of hits and speed we're going to see break out of this. And I think it's going to be a great matchup. I'm really looking forward to this one more than any of the others on the agenda this week.
Yeah, I mean, Vegas is always tough. It's a good test for the Predators coming off a nice win over Anaheim, and I think Anaheim is ahead of Vegas in the standings, if I remember correctly.
We'll have to look again.
Yeah, right there. They're right neck and neck. Look at that. 526 point percentage, both of them. So good test coming off the Anaheim win. That you're right. That's a good point. They're going to be tough to win or tough to beat. Good test for them. New Jersey, I just don't know what to expect there. But the Colorado back-to-back with New Jersey is going to be tough too. So tough week. We'll see how it shakes out for the Predators. Any final thoughts from you before we wrap things up?
Are you covering the? Are you going to be there in person tonight?
I'm not going to be. I'm not going to be at against Vegas. I'm not going to be there on Friday either.
Okay.
I will not. I'm basically out this week. I've got too much family stuff going on with Thanksgiving.
Well, it is Thanksgiving. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
I just didn't know. I won't be covering the games, but I may be at the game tonight.
Okay.
Pretty jazzed up about getting the chance to see it from the stands. There's always the part of you when you're up in the booth that you're like, well, I do enjoy watching this team play hockey. I just can't show it. So
yeah,
be good to show it.
I think I'm hoping to be there at in the coming weeks. It's just been the last few weeks for me have been really rough in terms of getting out of the house and then having to go on various trips for things, and it's just I'm glad I'll be glad to get back to routine in December, I think. So hopefully.
Yeah, that's mostly what I've got going on. Those are my thoughts. I'm excited about Vegas. Curious to see how Colorado's going to turn out.
Yeah,
that's all I got.
Okay, well, you can check out all of our hockey coverage at AtoZSportsNashville.com. Also, go to ontheforecheck.com as well. Read Shaun and everyone over there. Follow me on Twitter at AlexDarty1. Follow Shaun on Twitter at SCSOTF. And we will see you next week.